Yo, welcome into the Fantasy Wildcard DFS show. I'm Kev. We've got the main guys here, the best two from Fantasy Wildcard. We've got myself, Kev. We've got Ali, who you can follow on X at FF Dynasty Grill. Evening, Ali. How are you doing?
Good evening, mate. Yeah, doing really well. Can't wait to jump in and talk about week 16. We are rapidly approaching the end of the regular season, but DFS doesn't stop. So yeah, looking forward to tonight. There's some really sexy plays on the cards, and we're gonna help people win money, whether it be cash or take down some tournaments. So how you doing, mate?
Doing absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, I did miss the DFS contest this week, and I was too busy with other things this time. It can be quite tricky, but like Ali said, we're looking to get you some money in your pocket on a festive weekend. It's the Christmas slate, so it's a really fun time to have a little cheeky dabble, try and win a bit of money to buy things in the sales as such. Entering the new season, you'll obviously see if you're on video that we don't have Mags with us tonight. I'm going to make some joke about him being on the beer, but he's not very well. We're looking to doing proud without him here with us tonight. We do have with us a special guest. We've got the Star of Bethlehem above Ali on our screen. So hopefully that's a bit of good luck for us this week as we look at week 16. We'll be guiding you through the main slate over at DraftKings, and like Ali touched upon, cash plays, tournament plays, but we are going to come to cash first. We're looking at your really solid plays, popular, high ownership, all about floors, all about ceilings, all about people really wanting to take the simple option, the logical option on the slate. So kicking off at QB, I'm going to take us away with a guy that I've not been massively on this season, but I think he's on a really good stretch at the moment. Trevor Lawrence, 6,600 is at the books. You'll see a theme that I keep picking on the books whenever I get QB. It does seem to be working, so I'll keep going to that. Looking at what Lawrence has done the past 4 or 5 weeks, he's got a really solid floor. You couple that in with what's going to be a really strong high over-under type points in this game. I think it's something that, people are going to gravitate towards. Trevor Lawrence against the Bucs, which makes it my first pick as a cash QB play. And then you've got to do it, haven't you? You've got to talk about the main man, the guy that's been the QB2 last week, Baker Mayfield, 6,000. He's the other side of the pitch against the Jags this week. So again, high over under, really nice situation in terms of what that's going to look like from a game environment. There's plenty of options to stack it or to bring it back the other way. So lots of reasons to like both those plays in cash. Obviously in cash, you're not wanting to stack, but just to get you in the mood. Some of your cash players will be tournament plays as well if you add certain things to them. But on this, I'm just thinking about popularity, thinking about value, thinking about the over under on that one. So that's the QB sorted. We've talked about a Bucs guy there. We're going to the running backs, Ali. We knew this was going to happen, right?
Yeah. I'm not a homer. I'll probably have a bit of a homer, but Rashad White. Yeah, it took me by surprise seeing him as the most expensive running back on the slate. Really not used to that. He's usually, 8th or 9th most expensive. So for him to be the most is weird. But let's go with it because he's been on an absolute tear. 7,400 against Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey and etc. are not on the slate here. So you should feel really good about Rashad White. Since week 7, he's the running back 2 in total points, running back 4 in points per game. Over the last 3 weeks, he's been the running back 3 in points per game. And the one thing that was struggling at the start of the season was the Buccaneers running game. It's absolutely purring right now, and it's really working. It's the reason why we're actually looking good on offense. He's averaging 19 rushing attempts per game, along with his obviously usual targets. I think that he's a must start, especially in cash. I think he's going to be a popular play against a Jacksonville team that Trevor Lawrence is in concussion protocol at the minute. I think he will probably come out before the game. But they rank 18th versus opposing running back. So middle of the pack, I think Rashad White, you load him up this week because he's going to get plenty of work. And then second one, Raheem Mostert, 7,300, slightly cheaper against the Dallas Cowboys. it's an absolute no-brainer to have the running back 2 on the year who just keeps on scoring touchdowns, 20 total touchdowns in his 14 games played. If you're running back scoring touchdowns in your cash, it's really helping you get over that win line. And even this past week, he was struggling on the ground against the Jets. They were playing really hard, but he's still always going to be that goal line back for the Miami Dolphins. And he ran in another 2 touchdowns this week. So he's now scored multiple touchdowns in 3 of his last 4 games. So that's really good. And actually, Dallas have been good season long in terms of against running backs. But just look what James Cook done this week. Absolutely torched them this week for 200 all scrimmage yards. So in a game that I think is going to be, it is a high over-under, but I'm just going to bet on Raheem Mostert to run in a touchdown or 2 this week. So really like both of them running backs.
Yeah, how about them Cowboys, eh? I think the great picks first and foremost at 20 touchdowns, amazing. Better version of Gus Edwards, I guess. And then Rachaad White, yeah, just what he's doing at the moment is fantastic. I remember the days earlier on this season in DFS where he was 5,500. That was usually his mark. He's made a rapid growth, obviously. Being the number 1 running back on this slate in terms of his price is wild to see what he's done this season, but it's well warranted. His game script proved no matter how the game goes for the Bucs. So he's got to be really popular on this slate for the Christmas time picks. So we're going to come on now to the cash wide receivers, and this guy is someone that is not usually this price, but he's coming back from an injury. It's Justin Jefferson, 8,100 at home against Detroit. People could be potentially put off about Nick Mullins, but look, you've got the best wide receiver in the league when he's fully fit and healthy. People might say that's Tyreek Hill. I can argue actually that you could be right on that, but Justin Jefferson, what a price! He's in a dome. It's going to be a high over under. I think there's people might actually get a little bit worried about Jordan Addison's big game last week, and that could potentially bring down the ownership. But I still think he'll be very popular at that price because he's usually 9.4, 9.5, 9.6 when he's on form. So that's the first guy I want in cash. I just think with him being that value, you've got to smash that. And then the other guy, again, same game, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 8,200. So we know the game environment. It's in a dome. It's high over under. He is the main man for the Lions. You've got Jared Goff in a dome, which is really important because he's got tiny hands. And I just think he's someone that's going to be popular in a really, really favourable matchup for him. So, we're going to fly on to the flex now, and 2 guys that have actually been flying various past season. First guy is someone that's had an amazing, if not unexpected last week, and then the other guy has flashed in various parts of the year.
Yeah, so we like volume in terms of our cash flex plays. You're not going to get much more volume than Devin Singletary this week. 31 opportunities. 25 or 26 rushing opportunities, and he had 5 or 6 targets as well. So just incredible at 5.5K. Damian Pierce is an absolute. He's pathetic. So if you'd have listened to us, and you'd have sold him in the offseason anyway, so you won't have him. You don't need to worry about him this week because he won't be touching the ball against Cleveland. So Devin Singletary, 5,500. Cleveland defense is amazing at home, but away from home, they're not the same defense for some reason. So not scared of the matchup at all. Devin Singletary, plenty of volume. Absolutely love that play. And then $600 cheaper. Don't always want to go for tight ends in your cash flex spot, but Jake Ferguson is seeing the absolute targets these past few weeks, and that he's been doing it almost all season, to be honest. Brandon Cooks, he took a step back this week, but Jake Ferguson was still really useful. So I think it gives you such a safe floor. And a game against Miami, Dak Prescott is going to have to throw the ball. I think Miami are going to put up points, hoping Tyreek Hill to be back. I just think it's a high over under. Dak Prescott is going to have to throw, and Jake Ferguson's been one of the first couple of reads that he's got. Really like Jake Ferguson at sub 5K. He's almost like a wide receiver anyway, so really like that price.
Yeah, I love that. I think Devin Singletary was on a couple of my benches last week, but I think that volume was immense. I think with Tandell being out, with Nico Collins being banged up, it's it's going to create more volume for him. We know Damien Pierce is nothing, so I really like that pick value. And having that third running back in your cash lineups is usually a decent move. And then, like I say, Ferguson, it's a game environment where there's going to be a ton of points. Dak's going to want to bounce back after a bad game. So, yeah, getting a tight end involved in a nice matchup is really crucial. It's not your traditional cash build, but if you're paying down at that position and you flex anyway, you're going to free up a lot more room to attack and go after some of the guys mentioned there, running back and at wide receiver. So we're going to come to tight end and we're going to flip the script a bit and we're going to go back to you, Ali.
Yeah, so I was just so excited to talk about these guys, so it had to be me. I'm going to talk about them together because I very much see them in the same mold. So Trey McBride, 5,700 at Chicago Bears, and your guy David Njoku, 5,300 at the Houston Texans. I mean, speaking about Jake Ferguson almost being a wide receiver, these two have been pretty much a wide receiver just recently because of the amount of targets they're seeing. I think these are home run picks in McBride and Njoku. The targets have been absolutely insane recently. So since week 7, David Njoku is averaging 9.3 targets and Trey McBride is averaging 8.8. In terms of including wide receivers in total targets, Njoku ranks 10th overall and McBride is 14th overall. So they're pretty much wide receiver, sort of back-end wide receiver ones in terms of their targets per game. I think both will be popular and both bring such a safe floor this week. And both have a big ceiling because they're catching touchdown passes, especially Njoku with Flacco. Love to see that partnership. And the matchups as well can't get much better as well. Chicago ranks 27th versus opposing tight ends for Trey McBride, and Houston ranks 25th versus opposing tight ends for David Njoku. So you want to get these two guys in your tight end position because they're very much affordable, have that floor, and also have that ceiling.
I love this, Ali. You've picked like my favourite two tight ends of all time, Trey McBride and David Njoku. I know it's Christmas time, but I mean, I just want to be like Santa and empty my sack, like literally. It's amazing you've picked these two guys. I think they're both excellent plays, great matchups, and definitely getting a thumbs up. If you're playing cash lines for me, then I'm going to have one of these two guys in there, no doubt. So yeah, I think great picks. I'm going to come on to talk about cash, defense, special teams. First team that stands out to me as a logical pick is the Jets, 3,100 against the Commanders at home. Sam Howell, I tipped him up to do well last week. He did horrible, so I'm coming after you this week, Sam. He's got a mistake in him. He's on the road. The Jets defense is really solid. I think there's going to be some mistakes made by Howell. I think it's going to be a logical pick at a low price and paying up like nearly 4,000 for some of the high-end ones. And then the alternate pick is the Bears, 2,800. They're at home to the Cardinals. They've actually been borderline elite defense the past 4 or 5 weeks. People were laughing at them and mocking them when they traded for Montez Sweat. And look, they're playing really tough defense. They're really coming along. It's helping the offense as well. So yeah, I think it's a really, really logical pick to take on the Cardinals, who've been a bit of a whipping boy. Obviously, Murray's there, but he's got a mistake in him now. And then we saw a pick this week against the 49ers. But 2,800 for the Bears, a team that's on a roll, it just makes logical sense to attack that. So that's his cash wrapped up like a Christmas present, but we're going to move on to tournaments now. We're going to talk about plays that are unique, that are low ownership. We're going to be considering stacks and correlations. We're also not trying to think about beating half the field. We want to be number one. We want to get different. We want to make it as unique and as high ceiling as possible, which it's interesting to talk about high ceiling as possible. I'm talking about two guys at QB, which are not traditionally high ceiling QBs, but I just feel the price and what they could hit for you really opens up the board in terms of plays. I'm going to talk about Joe Flacco at 5,500. He's on the road against the Texans, but it's been a renaissance, like how he's performed. The past couple of games he's been, the starting QB it's been fantastic to see. I think at 5,500 you're looking for, 22, 25 points is a great week. There's options to build on Flacco. So you've got your Coopers, your Njokus there. But then on the flip, you've got like you mentioned, Devin Singletary, that could be a play on the other side if you're going to go down that route. And then the other QB I want to talk about is Nick Mullins, 5,300 at home against the Lions. Look, was going wild for Cousins early in the season, was going wild for Josh Dobbs for a bit. Let's keep it rolling with Nick Mullins. It's a system. It's got tons of weapons. It's a high-scoring game. We spoke about Justin Jefferson. Addison's going off a mega week. Hawkinson's got a great matchup. Ty Chandler, is that a flash in the pan? Probably. Is Madison back? Who knows? But I just think let's put the chips in on Nick Mullins. I think it's such a low price, 5,300. If it's, like I say, 20, 22 points, 25 points, that's mega. Yeah, and there's lots of ways to get different. Potentially, you could even do a Mullins, a Jefferson, and an Amon-Ra St. Brown, because your Jefferson's not the 9.6 that he usually is. He's a bit lower than that in the low 8s. And 5,300 for QB is a fantastic price. Now, we're going to move to running back. We're going to keep on the same matchup, but we're obviously not talking about Chandler or Madison.
No, we're going for Jahmyr Gibbs, 7K at the Minnesota Vikings.
Thank God you didn't say Montgomery then.
Question, Kev. Jahmyr Gibbs, Dynasty RB1? You've got to be getting fairly close. I know he's your guy. You've got to be delighted with... Yeah, you've got to be delighted with what you've been seeing recently. And it just seems to be taking over that backfield from Dave Montgomery, and you can just see why. His yards per carry the last 3 weeks, 7.5, 6, and 9.1, which has been insane. He's been looking really explosive. He looks efficient with his touches as well. It's working really perfectly with Montgomery doing sort of the hard yards, and then Gibbs coming in for the explosive plays, working really well. Last 2 weeks has been the RB4, averaging 21 points per game. So really great in this massive, it's a really big game, NFC North showdown. I expect Gibbs to be a huge factor for Detroit. It's going to be a high over-under. And then he's only $100 more than Dave Montgomery, who he offers a lot more, so much more ceiling to me, Gibbs, than Dave Montgomery. Montgomery could, I wouldn't even have him for cash, I don't think, because I think his ceiling's just not there, whereas Jahmyr Gibbs, we've seen the last few weeks, his ceiling be there. With Montgomery in the lineup, we had him having them explosive games when he wasn't in the lineup, but now he's shown it with Montgomery in the lineup. So gives me far more confidence to play him. And at 7K, really like that price. And then I'm going cheaper, very much cheaper. And this someone I could be talking about later on is Roschon Johnson, 4,800 versus the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, this is my favorite player of the week. You mentioned your quarterbacks. They were a nice cheap option that allows you to fit in that extra stud. I think this again is a guy that you can plug in and play, and it could potentially bring your ceiling up if you can fit in a Justin Jefferson who's cheaper this week. If you can have, say, Roschon Johnson, that I think has the baseline and perhaps has the ceiling in this matchup. He was the leader of the backfield last week against Cleveland and actually looked really good against that ridiculously good Cleveland defense at home. He averaged 7.2 yards per carry on the ground, and he saw 6 targets as well, which is really nice. And then coming off the hardest matchup, it almost in the NFL, he's now coming to the easiest matchup with Paul Pickens, Arizona Cardinals. I just think, I think he's got the potential to perhaps not go nuclear, but I think he can have a really decent game on the ground. I think the rookie's really coming into his own, and at sub 5K, I think you can fit him into your lineup, and he could potentially give you that boom game as someone that can be cheaper.
Yeah, I'm always going to give my thumbs up to a Jahmyr Gibbs pick. So I think, brilliant ceiling, great floor, game environment that we really like with the high over-under in a dome. So that's a great pick. And then Roschon Johnson, it's a bit of a gamble because the Bears backfield could change at any point, but what you're paying for him, it's you just think about what other players you're going to get in your lineup. So sometimes you pay down at a spot knowing that you're going to potentially get better studs at other positions. So I really like those picks. I think you mentioned Paul Pickens, Arizona Cardinals. I listened to the Rewind show this week. Maybe it's Hannah Rowland's Arizona Cardinals as well. So with a sneaky affinity to that. So we're going to move on to wide receivers now. First guy, you might have heard of him. He's called Tyreek Hill. 9,600. He's at home to the Cowboys. He's the highest wide receiver price on the slate. I think that works in your favour if you try and get different. There's obviously options that we spoke about, like your Jeffersons, your St. Browns, which are $1,500 cheaper. I think that's what puts Tyreek Hill in a spot where he's coming back from an injury. He's got a tough match against the Cowboys and their elite defense. You've got cheaper guys that have similar range outcomes on a week-to-week in Jefferson. So I don't think tons will be on Tyreek, especially with Waddle going off on a tear last week. I think it could be lower than expected, but you've always got to have Tyreek in your GPP mindset. So he's a guy that I want to roster this week in tournaments. And then the other side, I spoke about a seal of approval for Gibbs from me and a thumbs up. This one's getting a thumbs up from you. It's the boy, Mike Evans. 7,600. He's at home to the Jags. I love the matchup. I love that game to attack it. And Mike Evans, he is one of the high ceiling players in the league on a given week. He can go nuclear. We saw that week 17 last season when he won people's ships. I think he can win you some money over Christmas this week as well. So I'm happy with Evans. You're happy with Evans. I think we're all going to be happy with Evans, aren't we? So, we're going to move on to the flex spots and some of the lesser known guys, cheaper guys that can help pull your team along like a sleigh.
Yeah, so I like to target sort of rookies with the arrow pointing up because I think they get more chances towards the end of the season. Dontavian Wicks, 4,300 at the Carolina Panthers, who typically aren't the team that you want to throw on because you can easily run the ball on them unless you don't want to and your name is Alf Smith. But Dontavian Wicks at 4,300, I think, is an incredibly cheap price for a guy that could be the lead wide receiver on the team with Jaden Reed going down to another injury. I think it's a toe injury this time, was the ankle. He had a big game, but then he went out, and Dontavian Wicks is the guy that saw the most targets after him. So if he's the leader in that club base, that wide receiver room, really like that at 4,300. I think he's got the ceiling. And then Jackson Smith and Jigba, caught himself a touchdown last night, 4,500 against Tennessee. The Tennessee Titans. I think it's such a great price because, again, I think we're starting to see the decline of Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith and Jigba is earning the trust of Drew Lock last night, or whether it's Geno Smith going forwards. He's definitely getting more involved in the offense. His arrow is firmly pointing up. And again, 4,500 is a really nice cheap play. It allows you to fit in studs. Just someone different to DK Metcalf, who's going to cost you a lot more. And Jackson Smith and Jigba is now catching the touchdowns as well as seeing more targets. So, really like both those guys at a cheap price.
Yeah, great picks. I think Dontavian Wicks is someone that's really caught my eye and really stepped up. I think there's opportunities there on that team. And, at that price, it's opening up a lot of different options for you. Can't believe it's Christmas, and you mentioned Jackson Smith and Jigba beating up on my Eagles last night and giving us our third defeat and putting our season in doubt because we're on a slippery slope. A bit like on the Grinch when he's got the presents at the top of the hill and it just starts going. It's big trouble for the Eagles. But, I think it's a great pick with for JSN and the Titans. I think with Seattle's wide receivers, it's a bit of guess who, but we've seen GSN in this spot many times on our show sheet this season. Someone that's really cheap. He's got a bit of a boom in him. If he has a 15-point game, you've smashed your 3x plus on that. So lovely pick, which gives you plenty of options at the flex spots. We're going to come to tight end now, and we know that you love a tight end, Ali.
I do. I love these two tight ends as well. One at the cheaper end of the spectrum, one at the more expensive, or most expensive, should I say. So Tucker Kraft, 3,700 at the Carolina Panthers, and then Sam Laporta, 6,400 at Minnesota Vikings. And Tucker Kraft is really rolling right now, especially with Luke Musgrave being on the IR. 16 targets the last 3 weeks. He was second in yardage for the Packers this past week and caught himself a touchdown against the Bucs. Yeah, found himself a really solid role. And I just think at that price, 3.7K, it's such a steal for a guy with a high usage role. And he's got plenty of upside, touchdown upside in this offense. And again, if Jaden Reed is out, if Christian Watson continues to be out, he's going to have a big role, perhaps an even bigger role going forward this week against the Panthers, who we know they're not a great defense. And then Sam Laporta, it's a really simple one. He is the most expensive tight end on the slate, which hopefully will put some people off. But the fact is, it comes down to I want in GPP a tight end that can catch 3 touchdowns in a game. Yes, please sign me up. It's just as simple as that. I mean, if I have to pay up for it, so be it. But we saw the ceiling last week with Sam Laporta. He can catch 3 touchdowns in a game. I expect this to be a really high scoring game. And Laporta, he's back to being dominant like he was early part of the season. So I like him in your lineups. I like stacking him perhaps with Goff or a bring back. There's plenty of options in this matchup to get different. So yeah, really like Laporta. And then if you can't afford Laporta, I like Tucker Kraft and the role he's got this week.
Yeah, Tucker Kraft is one of those guys where, and when you think about the match, we think that the Packers are just going to steamroll them and there might not be a ton of opportunities. But look at that price, at what he's been doing and performing. Catch a touchdown, you've made your money. And he's really shown out recently. So I think he's got to be in play at that price in a game where if the Packers want to move the ball on the Panthers, I think they should be able to a certain extent. So I really like that pick. And then, yeah, who's going to argue with Sam Laporta? I've never said a bad word about him. I think obviously I have, but I think it's a great spot, a high scoring game, lots of opportunities. Yeah, he's going to have to put out a good 20 points to really, really hit, but yeah, we know he's very capable of that. So if you've got a bit extra cash in your pocket this Christmas, Sam Laporta could be the guy to go after in your GPPs. Going to come on to the defensive special teams for GPPs, and got to give a little gift here to Ali, haven't we? We've got the Bucks 2,600 at home to the Jags. I think, yeah, just it's people. If Trey Lawrence plays, people are going to be put off thinking, Bucks are going to get 25, 30 points put on them. But you look at what they've done at home over this season, and actually they've been pretty decent from a DraftKings point of view for their output. So I think it's something that maybe people are going to avoid because of the high over-under, but I think there's some sneaky appeal there for a Bucks defense. And then the alternate is probably the best fantasy defense in the league, the Dallas Cowboys. They have the blip against the Bills, but 3,000 against when they go on the road to the Dolphins. People are going to be put off that they got smoked by the Bills. People are going to be put off that they're on the road. Tyreek's returning. Waddle's just smashed it. Most has got 57 touchdowns on the season. So people will be put off, but just pick the best defense in the league. And we know what like with creating pressure and turnovers. I think it's one of those where it is appealing to me to throw down on them and see what happens this week over Christmas. So now we're going to come on to our favourite part of the show, the picks of the week. We're going to highlight a player each that we're really high on that you need to be getting in your lineup. So, honours, over to you first, Ali.
Yeah, I feel a bit of a letdown, really, because I wanted to get someone that wasn't already mentioned in the show, but this guy just is at the right price point for me to be really interested in him for GPP, and it's Roschon Johnson, 4,800 against the Arizona Cardinals, one of the best matchups in the NFL. Obviously Christian McCaffrey went nuclear with it this week. Roschon Johnson's not in that same ballpark, but if he is the leader of the backfield on this team, and he was at 50% snap percentage this past week, that's good enough to get you there. I can see him getting 12, 15 points, perhaps more. So if you're 2, 3, 4 times in your money, the Bears are playing well. They're scoring points. This game could be a sneaky over. Just really like the price point of 4,800. Really like the matchup, and it's just someone that allows you to fit someone like perhaps a Jefferson into your lineup. That perhaps if you went for more of a mid-tier running back, you wouldn't be able to do it. So, Roschon Johnson this week, lock him up.
Lock him up. I love it. Yeah, it was a great pick early in the show. It's still a great pick later on in the show. So cracking one on that. I'm going to do something similar. So I'll pick one of my picks because you did the same with yours. I want to do the same with mine. I've actually done this with a guy on a show earlier this season, Trey McBride. I just think what he's doing at the moment is really impressive. He's getting hype in all the circles, the redraft, the dynasty, and DFS. I think it's warranted. I mentioned like empty your sack on Trey McBride. You're not going to be disappointed. He's going to be bearing gifts this festive period. You need to get on that. I know a couple of shows back, I called him Apollo Creed, which absolute mistake on my part. I meant Ivan Drago. That's what he looks like. He's going to be throwing some punches this weekend as well. He's such a dude. He made that amazing catch this weekend as well. So I think that's going to be in people's minds. He's going to be great in cash. I think he's going to be a little bit spicy in GPP as well. So my pick of the week is Trey McBride. And thankfully, I've got his comparison, his player profile correct this time. Not Apollo Creed. They don't look like each other. I do not know what happened to me on that show a couple of weeks back. So yeah, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to follow us and subscribe to us on X and YouTube at Wildcard DFS and at Fantasy Wildcard. We drop the show every Wednesday. We'll be doing it again next week between Christmas and New Year. Plus, if you'd like to take part in our Wildcard DFS Moneymaker contest, we do it. It's every week. It's $5 for entry. The more people get in, the more money you win. Keep your eyes peeled from Thursday onwards. And it's a chance to win a bit of cash over the festive period. So thank you once again. Have a good one. Have a great Christmas. And we'll see you again very soon.